Our next item is a presentation from Chris Whaley on bike pedestrian counter. I'd ask the presenters to roll through the next 2 or 3 presentations relatively quickly.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, TAC members and attendees. As the Chair said, my name is Chris Whaley. I'm a planner on the travel demand management team at H-GAC. And so my presentation is going to get an overview of the counter program for collecting data about non-motorized modes of transportation. We're going to start with.
Hey, Chris, can you move your microphone just a little closer to your mouse, maybe?
Is that better?
Just a little bit, yes.
Okay, does that work?
That's better, yes.
Okay. Next slide, please. So this is looking at the mobile counter equipment. So this is designed for short duration counts. So this relies on infrared technology. So this is looking at differences in temperature, not movement, to registered users. So the equipment is locked in the metal box that you can see there, and then it's mounted to a utility pole or a similar structure. Then the equipment on the right is what the manufacturer calls a shuttle drive. So this is the name of the device that the user actually uses to interface with the counter. So this is what initializes the counting period and also communicates the date and time. Next slide, please. This slide shows the long duration counting equipment, or what we call permanent counters. So these, in contrast, they rely on a dual sensor approach. They have what a manufacturer calls a pyro sensor. This is the same infrared technology as the previous counter. And they also combine it with a pressure sensitive set of inductive loops. So this is what it uses to register plexiglass. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the process involved in collecting data from each type of counter. So as you can see, it is much more complicated on the part of the user to actually retrieve and analyze the data from the mobile counters versus the permanent counters. This is, I'll get to it later, with this one of the things we're hoping to remedy going forward with the program. Next slide, please. So this is a map showing all the the mobile counter deployments from 2013 to present. So one of the things the borrowers do, obviously, is just getting an immediate snapshot of traffic, but we've gotten to the point where several borrowers will have seasonal counts usually in the fall and the spring. So they're building sort of a baseline of data with that. And then we also have others using data for grants, and we've had people do build grant specific collection for build grants specifically to get a measure of before and after projects are completed. Next slide. This is a map showing showing all the locations of the 4 permanent or long duration counters. And again, note that these are all within the city of Houston city limits, and they're all located on off-street paths or trails. Again, I'll get to it a little bit later, but this is one of the features that we're hoping to remedy going forward. Next slide, please. So this is a slide overviewing the current state of the program. So again, both the bit.ly link and the QR code will take you to a form to initialize the borrowing process for the mobile counters. And then the link on the bottom is where you can find monthly reports from the permanent counters as well as historical mobile counting data. Next slide, please. So as I've kind of alluded to on the previous slides, we are in the process of procuring new equipment. So we have selected EcoCounter. This is the manufacturer of the permanent counting equipment to provide all the new equipment moving forward. So the goal is not only to increase the number, but also the location in terms of the entire region. So we definitely have that as an eye on that moving forward. We have the other component of this is actually deciding on where to place the new equipment. So we're going to purchase 4 permanent counters this fiscal year and approximately 4 to 5 other 4 to 5 mobile counters. And again, as I alluded to, the data collection process is much more simple because all the equipment will have automatic data transmission. And then the other new component will be purchasing technology to allow us to create a site that allows any user to retrieve data. Currently, this requires communicating with H-GAC staff directly. Next slide, please. Again, as I alluded to on the previous slide, part of it was what I would call is crowdsourcing, or we are asking contacts in the area for their ideal locations to place the counters. So what we did was we initially reached out to contacts for the HIPAC subcommittee and then also all cities and municipalities in the region, and we got and these are the locations that were submitted. So there were about 150 in total. And from there, we developed a scoring matrix that was both data-driven and also prioritized the number of requests and the yield of the requests to allow to diversify the locations in terms of both on-street locations and those outside of Harris County. Next slide, please. So this concludes all the information I have for you. Again, both the bit.ly link and the QR code will take you to that form to initialize the borrowing process. My email is below, so that's where if you have any data requests or questions, that is the best way to contact. I'm also happy to take any questions you have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Whaley. I have a question for you, possibly spilling over to Adam or Craig. With the call for projects coming up and ped bike being a criteria, do the scoring criteria in any way emphasize data gathering or using available data? My question would be, in the priorities you gave, we might consider whether a particular count set is useful to the call for projects evaluations, might be a short-term criteria you would use. Any comments on that?
I don't believe it is now. I think that it sort of envisions that as we both have a longer amount of data and also the equipment is both more plentiful and easier to use, that is part of the reason we can justify it, but I will double check on that. And I believe it again, I believe it is planned in the future.
Okay. Next we have Ped Bike Subcommittee Chair Ramirez.
Hi, I just wanted to mention that H-GAC developed a methodology and an online tool that does take into account some of the potential demand, and this methodology is uniform across the region. I'm not sure if that speaks to or adds some information to your question, Lloyd. Thank you.
It does. It does. I'm thinking of equal footing is in both angles, and the methodology you described is part of that. And whether that needs to be validated by counts or not is kind of the question that could lead to a run on count requests. Is what I was thinking. Veronica.
I guess two quick questions. One, if a jurisdiction wanted to have a permanent counter on a location, would we be able to buy in or whatever when you purchase the next round? So that's question number one. And then question number, maybe it's a comment number two, is for the bike ped project selected in the tip, are we able to incorporate these counters in these new projects and new facilities that we're building?
So
I won't say necessarily a policy decision, but to be able to, as we're expanding the network throughout the region, being able to also expand these counters.
I know for so we were awarded a lump sum, so we're spreading it out over 2 fiscal years. So we're planning to purchase a similar number of equipment next fiscal year. I think I don't want to speak to any firm comments, or commitments, but I believe we could definitely do a similar process to gauge interest for people who were unable to participate with the survey. And then can you repeat your question about the tip part specifically? Or your comment?
Oh, it was just a question of being able to incorporate permanent counters for the project selected for bike ped so that we can just begin to really build a great network throughout the region.
Yeah, I think
It was more a comment than
Okay.
anything else.
Okay.
Very good. Well, Mr. Whaley, I think you've gotten an indication of support and interest in this program, so we thank you for the presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.